Have faith and practice Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva. The Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva is a supreme scripture with vast blessings. We can catch a glimpse of the sutra's tremendous power from the countless stories recorded in Chinese Buddhism. These stories recount how many Chinese in the past received inconceivable benefits through studying and reciting this sutra, thanks to the blessings conferred by Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva. In my lectures, I will share a few of these stories so that we can cultivate deeper faith in the profound blessings of the sutra. It is similar to when I taught the Diamond Sutra. I told many stories about its miraculous effects so that you might develop firm conviction in the power of the doctrine of emptiness. Sanskrit, shunyata. I also translated some of these Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva stories into Tibetan while translating the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva. Because there are so many such stories, I chose only a few interesting ones to translate. When we try to understand a sutra, merely listening to a teaching on it is not enough. We need to refer to as many commentaries as possible to deepen our comprehension. If during a Dharma assembly we don't pay careful attention, or if we don't review or expand upon the teaching by reading related materials afterward, we are merely planting wholesome seeds in our minds but may not receive any further benefit. While studying, we must maintain a sincere enthusiasm for the teachings. Such enthusiasm is very important because without it, we will not be able to share this teaching with others and use it to benefit sentient beings in the future. If you want to bring benefit to sentient beings in the future through the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva, you must first develop strong devotion and enthusiasm for it. Liking something is a way of speaking in a worldly context, such as liking art, science, Buddhism, a historical figure, or Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva and Avalokiteshvara. In a Buddhist context, this kind of fondness is called faith and devotion, and it is an indispensable quality for every Dharma practitioner. However, one's faith in the Dharma also depends on the karma of one's past lives as well as the effort made in studying and practicing the Dharma in this present life. For example, our degree of compassion for sentient beings and our devotion toward the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas partially stems from the Buddhist training we received in this life, and partially from the past connections we formed with the Dharma, along with the virtuous and non-virtuous karma we accumulated. Those who have positive karmic connections with the Dharma in their past lives will naturally have faith and devotion toward all Dharma practices. As I mentioned previously, I do not have an oral transmission for the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva. Yet, relying on the special blessing of Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva that was passed down from Kyabye Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche, I have developed strong faith in all of the Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva practices, including this sutra. If you listen to the teaching with strong faith, you will also receive this special blessing, thereby gaining deeper understanding and greater reverence for the sutra. Consequently, sharing the teachings and spreading this practice will become something very natural and easy for you, and you will become more adept at transmitting them. In any case, when circumstances allow, we should strive to benefit all sentient beings through the Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva practice as often as possible. Repay the kindness of your parents. We know that the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva is a scripture taught by Shakyamuni Buddha to repay the kindness of his mother. The Buddha also taught a sutra to repay the kindness of his father entitled Father and Son Reunion, which was given as a series of dialogues in Kapilavastu after the Buddha attained enlightenment. In Chinese Buddhism, the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva is thus praised as a scripture on filial piety toward one's parents. Great masters and practitioners of the past often recited, studied, or taught this sutra as a way to repay the kindness of their parents and of all sentient beings who had been their parents in past lives. Similarly, by generating faith in this sutra, reciting it, studying it, or spreading it, we can repay the kindness of our parents, the very ones who gave us birth in this world and nurtured us, and for this, we ought to be profoundly grateful. The Sutra Difficulties in Repaying the Kindness of Parents states that leading our parents to engage in 5 virtuous actions is the best way to repay their kindness. These 5 virtuous actions are: 1. Generating faith in the Dharma. 2. Upholding moral discipline. 3. Abiding by the Dharma. 4. Practicing generosity. And 5. Cultivating wisdom. Unlike the usual worldly way of satisfying our parents in their old age, providing them with a comfortable home, grandchildren, and financial security, the Buddhist way to repay our parents' love and kindness is to benefit them spiritually, both in this life and in all their future lives, even though the benefits may not be immediately obvious. Monastics who spend most of their lives in monasteries may not be able to care for their parents in their old age and declining health. Lay Buddhists who are busy studying and practicing also may not spend enough time with their parents. However, as long as we sincerely dedicate our merit to our parents and gradually guide them toward the Dharma, such as encouraging them to recite the Sutra of Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva, even once we are, in fact, repaying their kindness in the best possible way. While translating this sutra, though I did not include it in the conclusion of my Tibetan translation, I regarded my work as a way to repay the profound kindness of my parents. I maintain this same intention while teaching the sutra. Likewise, whether you are currently listening or will be reciting this sutra in the future, you need to make the aspiration to dedicate the merit to the parents of your present life, as well as to all sentient beings who have been your parents in your past lives, wishing for them to find happiness and be free from suffering. Although such an aspiration will not bring any immediately visible benefit to your parents, they might be happier if you simply gave them money. The ultimate results in their future lives will be truly magnificent. The importance of keeping a clean environment. 1. The magnificence of the Trayastrimsha heaven. The audience of a sutra can differ greatly depending on where the Buddha delivers it. Some sutras were taught in the human realm and thus featured large human gatherings. Some were taught in the palaces of the Naga kings, where the majority of the audience was Nagas, and some were taught in heavenly realms. For example, the teaching of the Sutra of Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva took place in the Trayastrimsha, 33, heaven, where only a few human arhats attended. Most of the assembly was comprised of gods from the 6 heavens of the desire realm, the 17 heavens of the form realm, and the 4 formless states of the formless realm. There were also countless bodhisattvas, nagas, ghosts, and deities who arrived at the Dharma assembly from various worlds. It is similar to when a Dharma master teaches in either the East or the West. The majority of attendees must be from that local area, while some come from elsewhere because they share a deep karmic connection with that teacher. Some might question how the Trayastrimsha heaven could accommodate such an unimaginably large number of sentient beings. Actually, we need not worry about this. In the Vimalakirti Sutra, it is described that the small room of Elder Vimalakirti could hold 8,000 bodhisattvas, 500 shravakas, and hundreds of heavenly beings. Thus, for the Trayastrimsha heaven to hold such a large assembly is not a problem. According to the Abhidharma Kosha, Treasure House of Abhidharma, or wish-fulfilling treasury by the omniscient Longchenpa, the Trayastrimsha heaven is extremely splendid, where the entire world includes palaces, gardens, springs, and pathways spontaneously manifest due to the merit of the gods. If we study more about the Trayastrimsha heaven, we will see the vast difference between heaven and the human realm. The human realm is full of defilement, and no matter how beautiful it may appear now, it is sure to degenerate and eventually become unpleasant one day. When I accompanied Kyabje Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche on Dharma tours to the West and Southeast Asia in the 1990s, we admired the modern and beautiful look of places like New York and Tokyo. They appeared to us like paradises on Earth. Today, however, the overall environment in many of those places no longer looks as beautiful or clean as before, proving that all artificial things are impermanent, like dreams, illusions, bubbles, and mirages. 2. Both inner and outer environments are equally important. The deterioration of the environment in some areas certainly has something to do with their lack of proper management. Here at Lurungar, in order to create a better environment for all Dharma practitioners, we need to work together and improve various aspects such as environmental management, landscaping, sanitation, and the sewage system. After all, Lurungar is not a celestial realm or the Pure Land Sukhavati, where everything appears spontaneously in a pure, magnificent way. Although generally it is much better than it was in the past, there is still room for improvement. In a meeting with the Khenpos and Khenmos today, we agreed that we need to have a special sanitation team among the Chinese-speaking monastics to take responsibility for the entire environment. Lurungar is considered by many to be a Buddhist city, so we ought to manage it properly, so it truly lives up to its name. I will list 3 areas as examples that need improvement. First, better signage is necessary. Signs directing people to places such as restaurants, guest houses, assembly halls, shops, and clinics are not entirely suitable or clear enough. On a recent visit to one location, I almost tripped over the front threshold twice. I am not a clumsy person, but if I could barely step over it, imagine how dangerous it could be for older people or those with less agility. Therefore, in places that are uneven or slippery, proper warning signs should be placed in both Tibetan and Chinese. The design of the sign, its colors and shape, and its placement should be carefully considered. We should not place signs randomly. In many developed cities, you will notice that signs are always placed where they are needed most and are easy to see. As there are many residents here and more tourists and visitors are coming, we need to pay more attention to such details so that we can provide them with greater convenience, comfort, and safety. Second, please try to keep the space outside and around your own small house clean, tidy, and dignified. I notice that some practitioners decorate the inside of their homes quite nicely, but the yard and surrounding area remain cluttered. This is not appropriate because these days people place considerable importance on outer appearances, which often represent a person or a place. In The Treasure of Good Advice by Sakya Pandita, it says, "He who is good inside, but unkempt outside, will be looked down upon by all." I believe many of you practitioners here are rich in the merit of the 3 higher trainings: ethics, concentration, and wisdom. However, if your appearance is sloppy or your house is hung with all sorts of junk, people might look down on you for that appearance, even if you are on the verge of attaining the rainbow body. The same applies to the assembly halls and classrooms, which need to be kept clean and orderly. Last year, I deliberately visited some classrooms of both monks and nuns. Some classrooms were filled with disorganized stacks of items, with flowers and butter lamps placed haphazardly, creating a mess with no aesthetic sense whatsoever. Meanwhile, some classrooms looked very clean and dignified, with thankas and Buddha statues arranged properly. In the words of my perfect teacher when explaining the 7-branch offering, Patrul Rinpoche said that while Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have no concepts of clean or dirty, any offering we make, such as 7 bowls of water, should be presented neatly, beautifully, and in a pleasing manner. By doing so, we accumulate vast merit. Third, sidewalks are meant for pedestrians. Just like in cities, the roads here at Lurungar have sidewalks with lanes for the visually impaired. However, unlike the unimpeded sidewalks in well-managed cities, large garbage bins are randomly placed on the sidewalks, and tractors as well as cars are parked here and there, blocking them. Thus, people with perfect vision, let alone those who are visually impaired, cannot pass. This is why I said the other day to the equipment management team that they need to manage this place properly, for example, by designating or building specific places to keep these large garbage bins. 3. Serving the community brings positive outcomes. Although Larung Gar is only a Buddhist center rather than a real city, it still needs a beautiful and clean environment. Wherever we live, we should not only be responsible for our own behavior, but also for the environment of our entire community. I believe that your inner qualities and wisdom are greater than most people's because you devote most of your time to listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma. But you still need to assume responsibility and do your part to create a better environment here, for example, planting trees and flowers in and around your yard. In the sutra in praise of the noble qualities of the sangha, it is stated that making offerings and bringing joy to the sangha can generate inconceivable merit. On the other hand, if we cause inconvenience to the sangha or pollute the environment where they live, the negative consequences will be equally vast. For instance, when some people renovate their houses, they dump their construction waste carelessly on the roads or throw it into public garbage bins. This not only pollutes the environment but also misuses monastic property since the sanitation workers are employed by the monastic community with monastic funds. We accumulate grave negative karma if we utilize sangha resources to address our personal issues. Since this is a personal matter, one should rent a vehicle or tractor to dispose of personal construction debris in a designated place. While you are enjoying the services offered by the sangha, you should provide services in return to the sangha. Doing so will accumulate great merit for yourself. At every Dharma assembly in Larung Gar, for example, Tibetan lamas and jomos provide meals for the entire Sayanjanga. Many of us don't even think about these meals, taking them for granted, expecting everything to be provided and that we automatically deserve to be served. But, as expounded in the Madhyamakavatara, the concept of a self is described as that of someone who only enjoys benefits and avoids every activity. Hence, everyone, especially those in positions of authority, should seriously consider how they can serve the Sangha. If they have been elected to a leadership position but do nothing except point out other people's faults, then they become the sort of leader described in the Treasure of Good Advice by Sakya Pandita. When given a high position, one has no idea what to do. Though they have eyes for others, they need a mirror for themselves. Here, I am using Larung Gar as an example. But in truth, no matter where we live, we should become part of the local community and act in a way that provides comfort and benefit to all. In this way, we will be easily accepted and live happily with everyone around us. If we can't offer any contribution or make positive changes, at least we should not cause harm. Otherwise, if we only enjoy others' services without offering them any benefit in return and, even worse, create trouble for them, we will ultimately be unhappy. Remember this point well, Master Shikshananda and Buddhism in Xinjiang. As mentioned previously, the Sutra of Earth Store Bodhisattva was translated by the illustrious translator Shikshananda, who came from the kingdom of Khotan, present-day Xinjiang in China. Similar to what happened with Kumarajiva, Shikshananda's tongue remained intact after his cremation, which was seen as evidence that his translations of the Buddhist texts were both accurate and eloquent. Although very few historical records about Shikshananda survive, it can be confirmed that he lived during a time when Buddhism was flourishing and that he translated many highly esteemed sutras, including the 80-fascicle Avada Saka Sutra, Flower Ornament Sutra. It was during this period that many extremely precious Mahayana sutras, such as the Prajnaparamita Sutra, were brought to China by great translators like Shikshananda. Shikshananda can be considered a great emanation of a Lotsawa in Tibetan Buddhism, one of those translators who contributed immensely to Buddhism. Tibetan masters of the past used to pay homage to the great scholars and translators before teaching. Khenpo Dipa and many other Khenpos of his era often recalled the kindness of these great Lotsawas, translators, in their teachings how they journeyed to India to obtain the Dharma texts and then translated them into Tibetan. Historical records show that Buddhism was once very prosperous in the kingdoms of Xinjiang, such as the Kingdom of Khotan and the Kingdom of Kucha. In a record of Buddhist kingdoms by the Dharma Master Faxian, 4th century Eastern Jin dynasty, who traveled to India seeking the Dharma, it is noted that there were tens of thousands of monks in the Kingdom of Khotan during his visit. Throughout the land, the houses of the populace looked like stars scattered about, and in front of each house stood a small stupa. Even the smallest of these stupas could measure about 20 cubits tall, and the people of Khotan would build rooms inside for traveling monks from anywhere, providing them with whatever they needed. The scene in Khotan at that time resembles that of Tibet, where from ancient times to the present, it has been a common tradition for each household to have a shrine room set up with representations of the 3 jewels, the Buddha statue, Dharma texts, and a stupa. Although today few among the younger generation maintain the custom, the majority of Tibetans still keep it. However, with the expansion of Islamic rule into Xinjiang beginning around the 9th century under the Song dynasty, Buddhism gradually declined. After several centuries, the region became fully Islamized, and Buddhism had completely disappeared by the Ming dynasty in the 16th century. As Buddhists, we should be aware of this history. Knowing history does not mean we should engage in conflicts with anyone. Rather, it means we should develop an awareness of what happened or what might happen, rather than being blind and indifferent until danger befalls us personally. Recognizing that all sentient beings have been our parents in past lives, Buddhists cultivate love and compassion toward all. Nevertheless, some may assume that Buddhists are unable to retaliate, thus carelessly provoking conflict with them out of self-interest. Throughout history, there have been many tyrants who launched wars for personal gain, disregarding the well-being of ordinary people. This is likewise true of some religious leaders. One famous example is the Crusades, a series of holy wars between Christians and Muslims that lasted about 200 years. War is violent and a source of immense suffering. Yet the Crusades were labeled as holy, and the leaders who initiated them preached to their soldiers that the best way to serve God and attain eternal glory was to vow to sacrifice their lives in such holy wars. Even now, there are extremist groups that commit horrific acts under the guise of religion to achieve their goals. This is what makes theocratic politics so alarming in many countries. Under theocratic rule, extremists can exploit the cloak of religion to fulfill their political ambitions. Historical records provide numerous examples of individuals causing harm to countless innocent people in the name of religion. Although they claim to do so out of love and compassion, they are actually driven by self-interest. Seeing the harm religion has sometimes brought upon humanity, it's understandable that many people today choose not to practice any religion, and some even detest religion. No matter what it is called, a holy war or simply war, nothing can justify the deaths it brings about, nor can offering wreaths for the dead ever glorify those deaths. In contrast, in Buddhism, any war is waged using the sword of compassion to cut through the root of ignorance. As the Kṣitigarbha Shastra, 400 verses on the middle way, states, those who cultivate self-control see afflictions as enemies, not the people who have them. Shakyamuni Buddha regarded no sentient being as an enemy. The real enemies in Buddhism, the ones that Dharma practitioners fight against, are the 84,000 afflictive emotions in the minds of sentient beings, not the sentient beings themselves, who are enslaved by these afflictions. The wrathful forms of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, along with their fierce ornaments and weapons, symbolize the vanquishing of the darkness of ignorance in the minds of all sentient beings. rather than any intention to actually harm them, develop reasoned faith in Buddhism. As Buddhist practitioners, we need to understand the uniqueness and excellence of the Buddha's teachings. There are thousands of religions in the world, and each regards its own teachings as the best. Without sufficient research and knowledge, one can hardly distinguish one religion's doctrines from another. However, one can learn much about a religion by observing its founder, for that person is the religion's most critical figure. Some religions are led by gods, while others by humans. Some founders left no teachings, while others did. The founder of Buddhism is Shakyamuni Buddha. We can examine his teachings through the 3 types of investigative knowledge, or the 3 pramanas: direct perception of evident phenomena, inferential reasoning regarding hidden phenomena, and scriptural authority for extremely hidden phenomena, to see whether the Buddha's teachings hold any theoretical inconsistencies. If, after such thorough examination, you find them logical and acceptable, you can then take refuge in the Buddha, in his teachings the Dharma, and in his followers the Sayunja. This is the proper attitude in adopting a religion. If you follow Buddhism merely because others around you do so, you are engaging in blind faith. During the Cultural Revolution, many people abandoned their Buddhist faith, but some did not. Those who upheld their faith through such difficult times did so because they had developed unshakable conviction in the Buddha through rigorous study and practice. Those who did not have that conviction easily gave up their faith when threatened. It may be that they never truly understood the difference between Shakyamuni Buddha and other religious figures. They saw them all as simply being beyond ordinary comprehension. Perhaps they only followed the crowd who claimed, Shakyamuni is good, Padmasambhava is wonderful, Manjushri and Guanyin are both good. Therefore, it is crucial that we develop a reasoned faith in the Buddha and his teachings by listening and reflecting. For example, by studying the pramana treatises, epistemological treatises, we can see that the Buddha possessed omniscience and valid cognition. When we first approach Buddhism, the initial step is to hear the Dharma from a qualified master. Then we need to review the text and contemplate its meaning. We must examine the teachings in a serious manner through scientific inquiry, logical inference, or personal experience to determine whether they are reliable. Once we study the teachings thoroughly, we can reach our own conclusion that Shakyamuni Buddha is indeed most sublime, possessing omniscience of both the relative and ultimate truth of all phenomena. Generally speaking, with regard to all phenomena, there are 2 types of truth: relative truth and ultimate truth. Relative truth relates to objects of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, which can be understood by ordinary perception, whereas ultimate truth transcends ordinary perception and goes beyond dualistic conception. The many great scientists and scholars of the world, such as Einstein, Newton, and Aristotle, were only experts in certain areas of secular knowledge and uncovered only portions of relative truth. None of them realized the overarching principle of dependent origination, pratityasamutpada, or the ultimate truth of emptiness. Their understanding of emptiness cannot be compared even to that of an arhat. By applying this type of analysis, we can see clearly that, apart from the Buddha, no other scientist or religious leader has ever taught the ultimate truth of all phenomena. If we want to realize the ultimate truth, we must rely on the teachings of the Buddha. Even if we have some doubts about Buddhism, those doubts can be dispelled by examining the profound philosophical system of emptiness. As the 400 verses on the Middle Way states, anyone who questions what the Buddha taught about the hidden should rely on emptiness and thereby attain conviction. This means that if anyone has doubts concerning the profound teachings of the Buddha, including the existence of rebirth, the unfailing law of cause and effect, the inconceivable merit of generosity, and the subtlety of morality and forbearance coming to a clear understanding of emptiness helps clarify these doubts and nurtures certainty. The light and sound of the Tathagata. At that time, the Tathagata smiled and emitted hundreds of thousands of millions of great clouds of light. There were clouds of great perfect accomplishment, clouds of great loving kindness and compassion, clouds of great wisdom, clouds of great prajna, clouds of great samadhi, clouds of great auspiciousness, clouds of great merit, clouds of great virtues, clouds of great refuge, again clouds of great praise. At that time, the Buddha smiled and emitted innumerable great clouds of light. In many sutras, the Buddha is described as emitting a great radiance from the Ushnisha on his crown, from between his eyebrows, from his heart, or from his entire body. Here, the specific location from which he radiates light is not mentioned. Nevertheless, nothing the Buddha does, whether smiling or any other action, is without meaning. The 400 verses on the middle way states, "No action of the Buddhas is without purpose. Even their breathing is solely for the benefit of sentient beings." The word cloud in the text here shares the same meaning as the phrase clouds of Samantabhadra offerings, signifying vast quantities or large scale. Clouds of offerings means innumerable offerings filling all of space, just like clouds filling the entire sky. In this context, the great clouds of light can be interpreted from a Vajrayana perspective as the inconceivable luminous clarity of the mind's true nature, or from a common exoteric perspective as the Buddha's way of dispelling the darkness of ignorance in the minds of sentient beings by emanating boundless radiance. Each great cloud of light can be explained from different angles. For instance, clouds of great perfect accomplishment indicates that the Buddha has perfected activities benefiting both himself and others. I will not give detailed commentary on them all, as many Dharma masters in Chinese Buddhism have already provided commentaries from their own understandings, such as the great master Zhui Zexu of the Ming Dynasty. Some disciples place much emphasis on the concept of light, and often exclaim when they see a rainbow or something dazzling, "If you really like light, you could see all kinds of lights in major cities, but none of that is the same as the light mentioned here in the text." Here, the exalted qualities of the Buddha like compassion, wisdom, prajna, and auspiciousness are manifested in the form of great radiance. In some situations, the Buddha's light can be seen directly. For example, when you feel a special blessing while on pilgrimage to a holy mountain, you might witness some auspicious external signs. Yet in most cases, the Buddha's light cannot be perceived directly by our eyes. For example, when your heart is suddenly filled with a strong sense of kindness, compassion, joy, or equanimity, or when you attain a certain level of wisdom and samadhi, that is the Buddha's light illuminating your mind, even though it cannot be seen by the naked eye. In any case, the light of the Buddha shines equally on every sentient being at all times. After emanating such immeasurable, indescribable great clouds of light, he further uttered many noble and wondrous sounds. There were the sounds of the perfection of generosity, the sounds of the perfection of discipline, the sounds of the perfection of patience, the sounds of the perfection of diligence, the sounds of the perfection of concentration, the sounds of the perfection of prajna, the sounds of loving kindness and compassion, the sounds of joy and equanimity, the sounds of liberation, the sounds of being free from outflows, the sounds of wisdom, the sounds of great wisdom, the sounds of a lion's roar, the sounds of a great lion's roar, the sounds of a thundercloud, and the sounds of a great thundercloud. After radiating countless lights, the Buddha then emitted various beautiful, subtle, and marvelous sounds. One might imagine the scene as akin to a modern-day light show with music. Right before the Buddha turns the wheel of Dharma, he first emits a great radiance and then gives rise to different sounds. These sounds may not necessarily be something we hear as conch shells or the like. Rather, they encompass a great spectrum covering the 6 paramitas, the 4 immeasurables, and the realization of ultimate truth, among others. Those fortunate enough to hear them can receive blessings from any of these kinds of sounds, which will awaken the corresponding qualities in their minds. For instance, upon hearing the sound of the perfection of concentration or the sound of the perfection of prajna, one's samadhi or wisdom will increase. This is one method the Buddha uses to benefit sentient beings. When some people hear these special sounds, they may immediately develop both worldly and supramundane qualities. In 1986, 2 years after I arrived at Lurungar, Kyabje Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche decided to visit many monasteries, mainly in the Kham region, to inspire those who wanted to go with him on pilgrimage to Wutai Shan the following year to recite 100 million times the Manjushri mantra. Rinpoche said by doing so, an auspicious cause could be created for propagating the Dharma. The vehicles we used for that trip were not luxurious. Sometimes we rode in trucks, and the best was a Beijing Jeep. Yet whatever vehicle, Rinpoche always placed a loudspeaker on top, broadcasting the love songs of the 6th Dalai Lama Tsangyang Gyatso and various mantras such as the Padmasambhava mantra and the Mani mantra. These sounds brought tremendous blessings to our journey. We visited over 70 monasteries in that region, traveling through places like Drango Luho, Garze, Daofu, Niagrong, Shinlong, Dartseto, Kangding, and Rongtrack, Danba, because religious restrictions were somewhat relaxed at the time. Whenever we passed through a village or township, we turned up the volume so loud that people were drawn to the sound. Especially in smaller counties, almost all the nearby residents would come outside and pour into the streets. I had only recently taken monastic vows and was very curious and excited to see such large crowds gathering. However, people's reactions to the sound differed. Most were deeply moved by the mantras. They placed their palms together with faith, tears welling in their eyes. Some were simply curious about the loud noise and came out to see what was happening. A few felt annoyed by the commotion and became somewhat unfriendly toward us. Regardless of their reaction, although I was clueless at the time, Rinpoche said that a virtuous seed was planted in anyone who heard the sound. Because sentient beings have vastly different inclinations, some resonate more with sound, some with beautiful sights. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifest in various forms and employ skillful means to guide sentient beings toward liberation. We used to beat drums, blow conches, and use other ritual instruments before and after class. These days, we only blow conches and chant the Padmasambhava mantra. These are all skillful methods to plant virtuous seeds in those who hear the sounds. The assembly of the Dharma gathering. Then, from this Saha world and other realms, countless millions of gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits all gathered in the Kṣitigarbha heaven. They came from the heaven of the 4 great kings, the Kṣitigarbha heaven, the Yama heaven, the Tushita heaven, the Nirmanarati heaven, the Paranirmatavashavartin heaven, the Brahmakayika heaven, the Brahmapurohita heaven, the Mahabrahma heaven, the lesser light heaven, the infinite light heaven, the light sound heaven, the lesser purity heaven, the infinite purity heaven, the pervasive purity heaven, the heaven of lesser merit, the heaven of boundless merit, the vast fruit heaven, the heaven of no conceptions, the heaven of no afflictions, the heaven free from heat of afflictions, the heaven of excellent views, the heaven of excellent manifestations, the ultimate heaven of the form realm, the Maheshvara heaven, and so on, up to the heaven of neither perception nor non-perception. All of the assembled gods, dragons, ghosts, and spirits came together there. After the Buddha displayed these marvels, countless gods, nagas, ghosts, and spirits from this Saha world and other realms gathered in the palace of the Kṣitigarbha heaven. The gods residing in various heavens belong to the desire realm, form realm, or formless realm. If you want to study in detail, all of these celestial abodes in the 3 realms are explained extensively in the Abhidharmakosha, in the wish-fulfilling treasury, and in the Yogacarabhumi Shastra. Essentially, in the desire realm, there are 6 celestial abodes. 1. Katur Maharajika, heaven of the 4 great kings. 2. Triyastrimsha. 3. Yama. 4. Tushita. 5. Nirmanarati, heaven of delight in transformations. And 6. Paranirmita Vashavartan, heaven of enjoying others' transformations. It is relatively easy for gods of these heavens to come to Triyastrimsha for the Dharma assembly. The form realm consists of 4 levels of dhyana, and each level contains various celestial realms. The Brahmakayika, Brahmapurahita, and Mahabrahma heavens are found in the first dhyana. The lesser light, infinite light, and light sound heavens are in the second dhyana. The lesser purity, infinite purity, and pervasive purity heavens are in the third dhyana. The fourth dhyana contains 8 heavens. In the first 3, ordinary gods dwell, whereas noble ones reside in the remaining 5. The first 3 are the heaven of lesser merit, the heaven of boundless merit, and the vast fruit heaven. The heaven of no conceptions is part of the vast fruit heaven and is where people, often non-Buddhist practitioners who constantly practice mundane meditation, take rebirth. The next 5 heavens, heavens of no afflictions, no heat, excellent view, excellent manifestation, and the ultimate heaven of the form realm are inhabited by distinguished divine beings. Mahesvara heaven belongs to the ultimate heaven of the form realm, where Mahesvara, the Mahesvara deity, king of the ultimate heaven of the form realm, resides. After that, there are the 4 formless heavens of the formless realm, the realm of infinite space, the realm of infinite consciousness, the realm of nothingness, and the realm of neither perception nor non-perception, the highest existence in the 3 realms. Where exactly the 4 formless heavens are located varies among different scriptures. In the wish-fulfilling treasury, the omniscient Longchenpa cites numerous sources and elaborates on the formless realm in detail. According to his analysis, beings in the formless realm actually do still have extremely subtle bodies, which is why they are considered formless. Because of this, as Longchenpa explains, the 4 formless heavens are located above the form realm. However, in the Abhidharmakosha, it is stated that beings in the formless realm do not have any form at all, so there is no specific location for that realm. Wherever a practitioner, typically of a non-Buddhist tradition, attains rebirth into the formless realm at the time of death becomes that location of the formless realm. Afterward, they abide in their formless meditative absorption for countless eons. Recently, I've been absorbed in translating the wish-fulfilling treasury and discovered that the omniscient Longchenpa was truly erudite, laying out the comprehensive Buddhist cosmology while also presenting elaborate details about the non-Buddhist views. I spent many days studying and translating these non-Buddhist viewpoints, and at times, I almost thought he was teaching non-Buddhist doctrines rather than Buddhism. Because he introduces both the Buddhist and non-Buddhist perspectives so extensively, great teachers of the past placed enormous importance on this text. Although I received a reading transmission and read through it once shortly after I first arrived at Larungar, I never formally studied it. Later, I decided to translate the 7 treasuries of Longchenpa into Chinese. Wish-fulfilling treasury is among them. It has 2 large volumes, and I have basically completed the translation of the first volume. Currently, I am working on the second one. The teachings on the formless realm appear in the first volume. Moreover, from other worlds and this Saha world, the deities of the seas, rivers, streams, trees, mountains, earth, marshes, grain harvests, day, night, space, sky, food, and grasses, all such deities also assembled there. Various types of deities such as sea gods, river gods, stream gods, and so on who came to this gathering are introduced. A sea god presides over the oceans and a river god over the rivers. That's why whenever the sea god or the river god is offended, Calamities can happen to those who travel across. Marshland is sometimes related to lakes. There are sky gods that reside in space and celestial gods living in the heavens. The food deity is a sort of fire deity akin to the kitchen deity. If there is a foul smell in the kitchen god may become displeased. Countless types of beings inhabit our world, unseen or unheard by ordinary eyes and ears. However, we cannot simply deny their existence. Influenced by materialism, many people do not believe in supernatural entities like ghosts or spirits. But once they encounter these beings, they must acknowledge their existence. I know a government official who once didn't believe in anything supernatural, but after experiencing something related to malevolent spirits, he acknowledged their existence. Many Western politicians also initially didn't believe in these phenomena, only to mention in their biographies that they had to accept the existence of ghosts and spirits after personal experiences. Many occurrences simply make no sense if we view them solely from a materialistic point of view. For instance, when mountain deities, earth deities, or road deities become displeased, they might play tricks on travelers passing by or even cause them harm. Conversely, if we appease them by making incense offerings, they may smooth the journey for us. Indeed, making offerings to ghosts or spirits can bring them real benefit, as some of them appear in the form of hungry ghosts, experiencing immense suffering. Furthermore, from other realms and this Saha world, there were great demon kings, such as the evil-eyed demon king, the blood-drinking demon king, the semen-drinking demon king, the demon king that devours wombs and eggs, the demon king of infectious diseases, the demon king of poisons, the benevolent demon king, the fortune-bestowing demon king, and the great loving demon king. All these demon kings also gathered there. Different demon kings are introduced here as well. The blood-drinking demon king typically feeds on the blood of sentient beings, while the semen-drinking demon king consumes semen. Some people who always look pale or often feel weak could be suffering from having their vital energy drained by such demons. The demon king that devours wombs and eggs feeds on embryos and eggs, and sometimes the loss of a child in the womb could be caused by that type of demon. Infectious diseases like the flu or epidemics that spread worldwide might be unleashed when the demon king of infectious diseases is angered by negative deeds from humans. Those addicted to drugs may be under the control of the demon king of poisons. Many young people who misuse either legal or illegal drugs are controlled by such demonic forces. They endure immense suffering and gradually lose their freedom and self-control. The benevolent demon king has a kind and caring heart, protecting sentient beings by providing what they need, so not all demons are evil. Sometimes, I think certain asuras, rakshasas, and yaksas are better than humans. If you get to know them, you might find they are quite compassionate and genuinely benevolent. I have many good friends among them. Audience laughs. In summary, remember that simply reciting the name of Kṣitigarbha Bodhisattva can subdue and tame all these gods and demons, turning them into our friends. Dedication. May the merit arising from this work contribute to the long life of all great masters, to the flourishing of the Dharma, and to the well-being of all sentient beings, to the greatest extent possible.